All right, today we're going to make a logo. So if you want one for your YouTube channel, or you just want one to put on your background or whatever you want it for, we're going to use Pixlr to make a logo. So the first thing we're going to do is just choose a letter of some sort. So I'm going to choose a letter of my last name. So I'm going to say create new image. I'm going to make it transparent. I'm going to change it to 600 by 600. We could probably go different heights, but we'll just go with that one for right now. And I'm going to say OK. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the text button. And when I click somewhere on the screen, it'll start typing. I'm going to do a capital W right now. Make sure I tap on capital W right now. I'm going to choose a font that I like. And that one's not bad. I'm going to bring the size way up. And I might see if I can get away with bolding it. I'll bold it. And I'm going to make the color white. Say OK. So here I've got this W, and it's just kind of sitting there. And now I want to make it bigger, and I want to do something else with it. So I got to rasterize it. If I want to free transform it, I've got to do what's called rasterize it. So I go to this layer, and I go down to where it says rasterize, and I hit it. And then I can do an edit free transform. And when I hit edit free transform, I can make it bigger. Now, a trick that I just learned on the internet was if you hold shift, it'll keep the same dimensions, so you won't drag it out of proportion. So I'm going to drag and make it bigger. I'm going to hover over the corner, and I may give it a little tilt. Now, another thing I learned from Miss Dukowitz is you don't center things. So I'm going to bring it off center a little bit and down in the left-hand corner just a little bit. All right, so now that we've got that, we're going to add a texture to it. So I've saved two textures, and I'm going to open them as layers. So I'm just going to click off this for a minute and just say, yes, that's good for right now. And I'm going to go to my layer button, hit layer, and hit open image as layer. And I've got one in here saved as flames. So I'm going to go find flames. That'd be under the FHI, custom files. How about all files? And fire, I guess. Oh, flames, there we go. Hit open. So there's flames, and I'm going to make the W out of flames, and I hit edit, and I hit free transform. And so I can move this around. Notice it's tilted a little bit, so I'm probably going to tilt this one a little bit. And I'm going to make sure it covers it all up. Again, if you need to change the size of it, you hold shift down to make sure that it doesn't change the proportions. And I'm going to mess with the size a little bit just so I can, I'm going to see if I can, again, just kind of use, I'm going to have to go a little bigger. Again, holding shift when I need it. And it looks like I've got most of it covered up. I'm hoping all of it anyway. And so now I've got my flames. And so the next thing you do is you just click off of it. You say yes. And now your flames are just sitting there on the screen somewhere. And I can make them disappear for me. So I just click this little check mark. And now I go down here and I choose my W layer. So make sure this one's highlighted. And then I'm going to click on the wand tool and highlight the W stuff. And now I want to do is called invert the selection. So I go up here to edit and I go to invert selection, and this chooses everything except for the W. I click back on layer 2. I can turn it back on again. And now when I hit the delete button or backspace button, you'll see that those flames have now come in the W, which is kind of what we wanted. All right, so now I'm kind of done with that W layer. I can actually go back to that W layer and just delete it. If I right click, I can just delete it. For that matter, I don't know what layer 0 is. I'm just going to delete it too. Hopefully that doesn't come back to haunt me later. But now I've got a burning W, and that's kind of cool. I'm going to add an effect to it. I'm going to add an outline on it. So we're going to go down here where it says layer styles and click. We're going to add a outer glow. So I'm going to click on outer glow. I'm going to change the hardness, and I'm going to change the size of the outer glow. And you see this big, I don't want to blur it too much. 9 seems like plenty. Might actually go a little smaller. I might actually go over here and type. Can I type? I'm going to hit 6. So that looks good for me. Maybe 7. That looks good for me, and I'm going to change it white just so you can see it. I'm going to put it against a pretty dark background, so I'm going to hit it white just to change it. And now I've got a little outer glow of white, and I'm going to say OK on it. And so now the next thing I'm going to do is going to bring in my other background. So I'm going to go layer again, and I'm going to say open images layer. And this time I've got a background. I think I called it volcano. Maybe not. Let's go to all files. Let's see if I called it volcano. No. Don't you hate that polygon backdrop? Lava? Did I call it logo background? This may or may not be the one I want. I know that's not the one I want, actually. All right. So I'm just going to go with this other one, even though it's not quite the one I wanted. So I'm going to go with the one called logo background because I can't find the other one. That'll all work the same. You pick yours that you like. You probably won't have as many files in here to choose from. So I'm going to pick this one. And it's got some wild stuff going on here, and it's obviously too big. So I'm going to hit Edit Free Transform. And when I hit Free Transform, I hold the Shift key down, and I just push this in, and then I can grab it, and I move it over to where I want it. And I'm going to make this take up the whole background. So, oops, Edit Undo, because obviously I changed it a little bit. Oops, I hit Cancel. All right. So again, I'm going to hold Shift key down. I'm going to make it a little bigger. Take up the whole background. And now that I've taken up the whole background with that, now I'm just going to click off of it. I'm going to hit yes. Notice I didn't center anything again. I'm going to take my other layer, click on it, and move it above it. And now I've got a little something going on with the logo. If I want to change any of the colors of it, the colors aren't too bad, but I am going to do a couple things to the background layer. I like the color of the fire. I can make it a little different, but I like it the way it is. So I'm going to go to layer 3, make sure I'm on the background layer. I'm going to go up here to where it says adjustment, and I'm going to adjust hue and saturation. And notice if I do some messing around with this, if I want to change colors with the hue, I think purple looks a little cooler. Let's see what saturation does. It just makes it a little dimmer if I need to, but I want some of the purple to stand out. And light and dark, let's make it a little darker so the W stands out better. That's good. So I can change the hue and saturation. That's with adjustment. And then the last thing that we're going to do today is we're going to pop a border around it. So I'm going to add a new layer. We're going to go to layer, new layer. And on new layer, I'm going to bring it all the way to the top. And now I'm going to grab this drawing tool and make sure I'm on rectangles. And the fill shape is black here. So I'm just going to start up in the corners, and I'm just going to add a border to what I'm doing here. It won't be huge, but I am going to crop some of it off. I want to crop, and I'm going to try to be consistent. So I added a border to it. And with that border, something you can do that's kind of fun again, we're going to go to adjustment, and we're going to go, we're going to go to filter. And on filter, I'm going to use something called Gaussian blur. I'm going to bring that blur up. And the more I bring it, you'll see it blur the edges of that rectangle. I'm going to say, that's probably too much. I'm going to say OK. And then I'm actually going to go to the layer itself. So I'm going to go to layer 3, and I'm also going to add that same Gaussian blur. And again, that kind of blurs out the background a little bit. Maybe that's a little too much. I'm going to bring it down, say OK. And I've got my logo. So everything's faded out. It's not quite done. So I just have to hit File. I have to hit Save Image As. And I'm probably going to save it as JPEG. And we'll call it good. And we'll call it Logo 2. And we've got another logo. And I appreciate that. And I want to thank Havoc, who taught me how to do that on the internet.